Friends, today we are back with few more current topics. Daily wise on this channel, we have been discussing few of the topics regarding the current affairs and our ability to relate those topics with syllabus that we are having in our UPSC GS mains. In GS1, as like we cover geography, society section, and even sometime the history part. In GS2, we sometime relate it to the governance and constitution, international relations. In GS3, the topics those appear are either good for our inclusive growth or economic, etc. While in science and technology and internal security also makes a cut. In GS4 ethics, I always try to relate it any other topic from the angle of moral and ethical angles. All these things you can even utilize to build your content in essay also. In this series, again, first topic that will appear today is India's role in ending the Russia-Ukraine conflict. It is part of the GS2, Maharashtra's solar push, that is GS2 and 3, startups role in making India a developed nation, that is GS3, small scale LNG, what it is and its usefulness. It can be asked in GS3 also. In income inequality data that can be beneficial for writing society answers and even GS3 answers. So let us make a move, and it is the Prime Minister speak to Putin and Zelensky. He calls for dialogue, diplomacy to end war. As you know, Russia-Ukraine conflict has now dragged for a quite a medium point of time. These countries are fighting because of, the reasons. Russia does not want Western countries to expand to its territories or nearby its territories. Russia also feels that there are historical associations in the USSR, and the people those are living in those territories are of Russian origin and they want a breakaway. While Ukraine's argument is like, this is our territory and we have sovereignty and integrity on our geographical proximities. So whatever the NATO expansion or the Western countries are expansion happening, it is only and only because we want that to happen. So there is a conflict between Russia and Ukraine. In 2014, as you know, Russia occupied Crimea portion of Ukraine. Now this war has extended and Russia has occupied close to 4-5 cities and some area. Russia is that actually tried to invade Ukraine in the hope that it will subjugate Ukraine within a few months or maybe days of fighting, but this fighting has dragged on and continuously has been dragging on. So what are India's options? India again, time and again, has called for number one, peace. Why peace? Because they feel that peace is the ultimate mantra. Peace actually comes not only with its own but the principles and India's policies of Panchsheel also. India has always talked about Panchsheel policy. Panchsheel policy talks about number one, sovereignty and non-interference in any other's matter. India also wants that both countries, and this is not an era of war. India says that this is not an era of war. So every country should be remaining peaceful with other countries. That's why Prime Minister Modi, after the Russian president's re-election, called Putin and even Zelensky. Zelensky is the Ukrainian president, and now calling them for dialogue and diplomacy rather than fighting to end war. Modi also congratulated Russian president on his victory in the recent elections. They said that this is the time now to build on the recent advances. Prime Minister actually spoke and said that this is not an era of war, and what India wants is the peaceful solution to this particular part of Europe and Asia. What are India's options? What can India do? You see, India is a long-standing partner of Russia. Erstwhile Soviet Union had both Ukraine and Russia in it. So both countries were part of India's relationship that time with Soviet Union. India has friendly relation with not only Russia but also Ukraine. India's relationship with the West also, West countries demand that India should always try to support Ukraine rather than try to support Russia. But India has balanced the relationship because Russia has been a long time tested partner and has been a comprehensive strategic partner for us. That's why we cannot break away relations like that. But India also wants that the geographical sovereignty of and geographical integrity of a country should also remain intact. As you know, why it is also important, because there are border skirmishes between India and China. So tomorrow, if some trouble happens at the China-India border, then India's advocacy of geographical integrity will come in handy to deal with even Chinese, and on the basis of that, India can demand even an external help. Although India is capable of securing its own borders, but its principal position will definitely help to achieve that particular goal. So India's option is this: peaceful settlement of the dispute. Zelensky means the Ukrainian president, when Prime Minister called him, he said that India should participate in the inaugural peace summit that is supposed to happen in Switzerland. So Switzerland is supposed to, conduct a particular peace conference. And what is that peace conference? To bring peace and bring countries on a particular table. But once again, actually, even if Russia does not participate in that peace conference, it can be a non-starter altogether. An exchange of views were also held on number of issues on the international agenda. The mood of further coordination in India with India in multilateral formats, including Shanghai Cooperation Organization. As you know, Russia-India relationship is not only related to Russia and India bilaterally. They are part of number one United Nations Security Council reform suggestions. They even are part of multilateral forums like SCO, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and the BRICS concept also. So BRICS, SCO, etc. So India and Russian president both talked about that. As you even know that Russia's relationship, how that is important in our defense relationship. Close to 39% of our defense supplies are coming from Russia. So India cannot altogether drop Russia from its plans. But yes, peace is important, and India's role in ensuring peace is because of its history of non-violence, its history of Panchsheel, that is non-interference in each other's territorial sovereignty and integrity in internal affairs. So this is how we see that this topic actually can be. One of the other suggestion is, in case Russian actually conflict with Ukraine further drags on, then China takes an advantage of it. As you know, after the Russia-Ukraine crisis, China has taken advantage, and relationship of China with Russia has grown up. Both countries are now showing an ironclad commitment type of relationship. So if Russia and China come together and they force even a greater strength of partnership, then India's options in dealing with Russia also can get reduced. So that can be one of the angle that India has to be wary about. So India's options in Russia and even Ukraine are that's why that affected by these kind of calculations. So you can build your content in that manner. Even that can be helpful in people who even actually are increasing their mains or interview level content understanding. Now the second topic is Maharashtra's big solar push. As you know, solar is important because number one, it's a renewable energy. This energy comes without even pollution. This even reduces the cost of fossil fuels and the import of energy that is related with fossil fuels. It also tries to reduce the import inflation, because whenever the fossil fuels are imported from outside of the countries, then the import inflation also comes. As you know, the Gulf War, Israel's recent conflict with Gaza, and other Western Asian countries are have affected the supply of fossil fuels earlier and have jacked up the prices. So import inflation India can deal with. Even India can deal with to even United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change commitment also, where India has said that close to 50% of our energy requirements will be fulfilled by renewable energy. Even it can improve the solar manufacturing that is happening in our country and the reliance on that, and broadly energy security. That's why solar energy is important. We are trying to actually manufacture close to 100 gigawatt of electric energy by solar projects even. So Maharashtra's big solar push. Even with solar push also, we can say that number one, the rates of the solar powered electricity is lesser as compared to the other means by which either a hydroelectricity is produced, by which the electricity is produced either by a hydroelectric plant or coal based plants. So solar energy is always cheaper as compared to that. So, and number two, the discom's capability. In solar, anywhere actually the solar can be implemented and the power can be generated. While in the hydroelectricity and in the coal based power plants, there are significant transmission losses also. So transmission and carriage losses, actually those are associated with the transportation, are not a factor in solar. Even solar plants actually can be installed at home, and home also can start becoming the solar power producer. Even actually the discom's health. Discom means those companies which distribute energy from the producer to the end consumer are called discoms. So these discoms financial health, as we know, are in a serious crisis, and if the health of the discoms are to improve, then solar project actually can help them big way. Maharashtra government formally issued letter of award to 95 project developers for extracting 9 gigawatt of shovel-ready distributed solar capacity dedicated to supplying reliable daytime electricity supply to agriculture. What? Daytime electricity supply to agriculture. This is the largest aggregated project that is having a distributed solar capacity in India and possibly anywhere in the world. This is a program that is aimed at deploying solar capacity of 2 to 10 megawatt at the distribution substations that predominantly supply to agriculture. So number one benefit of it will be, as I told you, the related benefits with solar. Another benefit is because of it is at a different locations. That's why agriculture is supposed to get the regular power supply. If agriculture gets the regular power supply, not only the labor that is attached with the agriculture for irrigation etc purposes gets a time bound electricity supply, and that can help them do any other work in their other hours rather than waiting endlessly for power. Number two, if agriculture is supplied power, then whatever the power cuts those are happening for the industry, that can also reduce, and power cuts in the industry sector if reduced, then industrial output will also increase. So that is one of the medium. Another is whenever agriculture sectors bills are always actually there is a talk that the bills of agriculture should be relaxed, rebate should be given. These kind of things also will not come into picture. So this is the scheme and how the solar power can be beneficial. Even Maharashtra government is also establishing a single window clearance portal and IT dashboard for a faster project clearances and project monitoring. So this is how this particular thing is. And one more thing is, because of the subsidy factor etc, the quality of the supply, electricity supply, has been also lower, and because of the AT&C and transmission losses as well. So this kind of thing actually will be crucial in embracing distributed renewable energy as one of the means of addressing the issue of DISCOM's financial health and for the betterment of farmers and for clean energy at economic rates. So this is how the solar push actually help us in meeting all those goals. Now comes another topic that is related to the startups. As you know, India is becoming a startup world capital of the world. After US, India is having the third position in the startup space. According to data, somewhere around 1.15 lakh registered startups. Now you can utilize this data to build your answers. Close to 1.15 lakh registered startups are in the country with 110 unicorns. What is unicorn? Unicorn is one where the valuation of that particular startup has reached $1 billion or above $1 billion. So that is what the India's large ecosystem is representing, close to 110 startups. Out of these startups, close to 45% of startups are driven by women. So women are now heading these startups, close to 45%. So this data. Now he also says that close to 12 lakh personnel, 12 lakh Indian youth are associated with these startups that have even filed 12,000. So number one, you will say the importance of a startup. Number one, the amount, see the quantity of the startups, 1.15 lakh, 110 unicorns, and 110 unicorns means those actually which whose valuations are more than $1 billion. So they have got the investment or the market valuation of at least $110 billion. Number third, close to 45% so diversity among the genders. So 45% of startups driven by women. Close to 12 lakh for employment. So close to 12 lakh youths are associated. For innovation, to close to 12,000 patents. He encouraged founders to even seek patents for their innovation. Then geographical diversity. So in entire three cities, even actually the startups are now mushrooming. There is an opportunity to incubate ideas. What is the government's help? So government has given us some sort of relaxation to startups either from audit or tax filing. Even the government is actually giving them single window clearances in giving some sort of grant for the project approvals. India has also banned quite a few items from the list of defense etc. so that the defense startups can also mushroom in our country and make country self-reliant. So this is how the government is also. One more is skilling mission, because skilling is important for the continuous talent supply for the startup industry. Government is also doubling its effort under Skill India Mission program etc. to not only skill people but also make them equipped with dealing with the new technologies. As you know, the startup ecosystem has also contributed in India's financial inclusion through UPI success. You can know that in financial inclusion, not only the person who is well versed with the technology etc., but person who is sitting at the remotest corner of our country are now part of our formal financial systems, either through a banking system or small banks or financial banks etc., payments bank etc. So this is how the financial system inclusion is also happening. So startups are contributing a big way into this. Because of the e-commerce etc., we may see that the artisans, those are sitting at the remotest corner of the country, they can also sell their produce to the people living in the rich geographies and even outside, whose geographical territory reach actually could have been earlier impossible. So these startups are also helping in that way. So the innovation culture is improving. Innovation culture of startups are not only going to play a key role in achieving the goal. And what is the goal of India for achieving a developed status? So developed status by 2047. What is a developed country? A developed country is one where the economic parameters are healthy, where the social infrastructure is so great, where the income levels of the people, we say per capita income levels of the people are higher, their human development indicators are improved. So these are the developed countries status. So Prime Minister says that startups culture will play a big role, because number one, because of the startups, innovation landscape of the country will increase. Country will flourish in the digital area, and the decade of future decades will be connected with the digital revolution. All those technologies which are coming like artificial intelligence, machine learning, industry 4.0 etc. are now have a rock solid foundation on the digital technologies. So India says that a startup culture actually can be a wonderful medium for us. Startups will also provide efficiency into our production system. So efficiency can also help not only cutting the cost of production but also improve the market access of the products. So this is how the startups can play a very big role. So this data can be wonderfully healthy for you. You can write down these things and the diversity that a startup cycle or funds etc. are bringing at the geographical proximities. Now we move on to the next topic, that is a small scale LNG. So what is LNG? India, again with solar power, actually I would like to tell you that India's embrace for the clean energy is now getting a wonderful turn. When we talk about a small scale LNG is cleaner and cheaper than diesel and can save India valuable foreign exchange. So what India is supposed to do? India is trying to not only inculcate close to 50% of renewable energy in its basket because of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change commitments, but also to properly provide people with clean fuel. So that's why the indoor pollution also can be decreased, the vehicular pollution outdoor can be decreased, and the cities, country cities which are having a dubious tag of being most polluted, that tag also can be reduced. So small scale LNG, what is LNG? Union Minister for Petroleum and Natural Gas this month dedicated to the nation India's first small scale liquefied natural gas unit at GAIL in Madhya Pradesh. The government has been pushing for the adoption and use of natural gas across sectors and aims to increase the natural gas in the primary energy mix to 15% by 2030 from a little more than 6%. So India's share of the natural gas in primary energy mix, India wants this to improve to 15% from close to 6% now. So reliance on other fossil fuel will definitely decrease, and on this LNG it will increase, and clean energy supply not only for the familiar purposes but also for the other purposes will also increase. This is because the natural gas is far less polluting than conventional hydrocarbons like coal and oil. It is also cheaper than oil, more than 85% of India's requirements for which is met through costly imports. Natural gas is seen as a key transition fuel in India's journey towards, as I told you, green energy and clean fuel. So that is, even intercity buses are also can be wonderful thing. A major challenge in scaling up gas consumption lies in the transportation of the gas to places that are not connected by the country's natural gas pipeline grid. A problem that also hinders the use of LNG directly as fuel for long haul trucks and intercity buses. Large scale pipeline projects that are in the works will take years to be completed. Even so, even last mile delivery challenges will always persist. So these are the challenges in implementing the small scale in LNG project or delivering LNG to the corners of the country. So in this scenario, new age solutions with fast turnaround times actually can help, and LNG, small scale LNG, can be a big help into this, because if we need to reach LNG to far away remote places, then we have to transport them, etc., etc. And in transportation you see that the pipelines buildup can happen at a very long time. So the small scale LNG can be an answer to that. Small scale LNG is one such promising solution. Many plants like one at the Wajipur were expected to come up in coming years, which could potentially change the country's natural gas landscape. So what is so in small scale LNG there is no particular standard definition, but basically small scale LNG refers to the liquefaction of natural gas and its transportation using unconventional means in a significantly smaller scale operation than the usually large scale liquefaction, regasification and transportation infrastructure and processes. LNG, that is gas in its liquid or super chilled form, is supplied in specialized trucks and small vessels to industrial and commercial consumers in regions that are not connected by pipelines. In relatively traditional use cases such as supplying commercial natural gas for vehicles and piped gas for households and manufacturing units, the buyer would regasify the LNG using small vaporizers. So the requirement will be to regasify, and regasification can happen with small vaporizers, and then we can supply it to the end user. So the problem of transportation and developing big pipelines, large pipelines from the origin to the destination can be overcome by small scale LNG. So this question can directly be asked in GS3, that what do you understand by small scale LNG, how it can overcome the main problem of the LNG distribution, etc. What kind of big things it can generate for Indian economy. So you can write about all the data that we have talked about. A small scale LNG chain can start from a large scale LNG import terminal where the LNG, instead of being regasified and supplied through pipelines, can be transported to the consumers by cryogenic road tankers or small vessels. So this is how the project actually can be beneficial for our country. LNG has been used successfully and, as you know, aggressively in medium and heavy commercial vehicles in many countries, most notably in China. The challenge in India include a lack of easy availability of LNG powered vehicles, the higher initial cost of these vehicles compared with diesel, and the absence of an LNG vehicle financial ecosystem, and virtually non-existent LNG retail network. So this is how actually the small scale industry, small scale LNG can become one of the wonderful way in which we can always win this particular problem and help countries energy mix of 15% be achieved by LNG by clean and less polluting fuel. We now move on to the next topic, that is income and wealth share of India's top 1% among highest World Inequality Lab report. So number one, we would be talking why inequality is altogether bad for a country's economy. Because what is inequality? So when the country's top strata of the society, they actually control the resources of the country's territory in a very large manner. So suppose say 90% of the country's resources are controlled by suppose say 5% of the people, then bottom 95% of the people will only be controlling 10% of the economic resources. When such a large section of the society will only control 10% of the economic resources, then it is a very big problem. Number one, it can be not only inflationary, but it can also be because of the geographical diversity and the economic diversity is less. So even the products those will be generated by those people will then have less marketplace. So the economic diversity in other sectors cannot increase. Suppose say some products are being consumed, but those products actually will not be consumed at a mass scale. If that does not happen, then the economic potential, economic territory of the country cannot become one of the most developed economy. In medium and small scale industries, those actually rise because of the consumption levels of the middle classes or the bulk that happens at the middle levels. If that does not happen, then there is a crisis for the medium small scale industries. If medium small scale industries do not work to their potential, then the employment level actually that comes with medium and small scale industry can also reduce. And when the employment reduces, then it can create its own set of challenges in the economy where inflation and growth, both numbers actually shrink, and it can be definite problem for monetary and fiscal authorities to allocate resources to these countries. That's why inequality is important. Socially, when we see why inequality is very a problematic area. So why social inequality is a problem area? Because of number one, in an equal society there can be a problem of social stripes. Those who have nots can actually always try to attack all those people who haves. So in a society that is driven by inequality, there can be problems of hunger, there can be problems of other famine, etc. also. And because of the economic stagnation that is associated with the lower state of the society, not involved in the agriculture, not involved in the productive sectors of the economy, the bottom state of the society will have very less meaningful resources to contribute to their life. That's why education related expenses, health related expenses will reduce, because of their survivability will become more important. These people who are at the bottom of the society, most of their consumption levels will be towards meeting their food and energy requirements. So in food and energy requirements, then other priorities like health and education take a back seat, and it becomes a cycle where because of the less education you cannot get a good job, and because of you don't get a good job you don't have the earning potential well, and again you go back to the poverty levels. So inequality in itself is why very bad for a country's not only economic foundations but also social foundations. And once your country actually gets a tag of an highly unequal society, then those people from foreign etc., those who want to invest in your territory or economy, they will also think twice, because those industries or those companies which try to manufacture at a larger scale, they will not be doing so. Government actually will be also constrained, because number one, government's tax base will also decrease. Why? Because there will be lesser people who will be contributing or will be coming into the tax net because of the lower income levels. but those at the higher level of income, they can only contribute a very less amount of money, because when we see the wealth tax, suppose say for highly wealthy Indians, or highly wealthy population is only 10%. So how much you can bring out them? So until and unless the tax basket is very very large enough, the government's tax revenue will also decrease, and because of the government's tax revenue will decrease, the capital expenditure possibility of the government will also increase. Till the time the government actually does not spend in the capital, for either manufacturing new plants, or laying roads or infrastructure, whether this is social or other part of the infrastructure, there can be another downward cycle for the economy, because people will not be getting the disposable incomes in their hand, and their ability to even spend will become troublesome. Government's own receipt and revenue expenditure will then actually also get affected, because revenue expenditure will increase for the government to take care of the people those are living at the bottomest side of the society, and the revenue receipts are lower because of the lower tax base. So that's why the income inequality can be all disastrous for not only society, economy, but also for the government. And enlisting the probable reasons for sharp rise in top 1% of income shares, the paper actually that says that public and private sector wage growth could have played a key role in this, adding that there are good reasons to believe that capital incomes likely played a role in subsequent years, for the share of bottom 50% and middle 40% remained depressed. He says that there is a lack of quality broad-based education that is focused on the masses and not just on elites. So this is how the problem has been coming to the fore, and how it can be dangerous for our country. So India's top 1% income and wealth shares have reached historical highs and are among the very highest in the world, according to a paper. The top 1% income share in India was 22.6%, and top 1% wealth share rose to 40.1%, with India's top 1% income share among the very highest in the world, higher than even South Africa, Brazil, and the United States. So this is the paper that has been published by Nitin Kumar Bharti, Lucas Chancellor, Thomas Piketty, and Anmol Somanchi. So this is how the problem came. So whether you believe the papers findings or not, but yes, India has been dealing with this particular inequality, not only in India but close to everywhere actually this problem is. So why, on a common broader point, how the inequality is dangerous for a country's social infrastructure, social standing, social foundation, economic foundation, but also for the government itself. So this is where we will stop today's lecture. Thank you for listening this. If you feel that you can contribute and we can contribute more for your understanding, please feel free to write us back. You can write down in the comment section. If you feel that there was a genuine effort from our side, please like and share the video. For more such videos, you can like the button and subscribe the channel. Thank you.